Hey Internet, Michael Besog here. It's the 15th of April 2017, and we're going to talk about free speech. Have you noticed the same sorts of people that insist you must respect their protest also insist that you can't say anything which might offend them? Freedom to assemble and freedom of speech are both protected by the Constitution, so it seems contradictory. Wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that the people who hold freedom to protest by assembly as a sacred right would also believe that speech is sacred? What is happening to free speech? Why is it so important? We'll talk about each of those things in this video, so stay right there. About 2 months ago, I did a video about how social justice warriors might have just declared war by attacking UC Berkeley in order to prevent a gay Jew from speaking at their campus. I haven't seen much of an uptick in activity since then, so I can only assume that leveler heads have prevailed and the newly armed Antifa realize that normal people are better at violence than they are. Antifa, by the way, is short for anti-fascists, and they're known for using violence to quell dissenting voices. In more recent weeks, Antifa went head-to-head with Trump supporters at pro-Trump rallies in places like Huntington Beach, California, where they attacked old people and then got their collective asses kicked. Antifa black blockers turned violent and got arrested in Vancouver, Washington in early April as well. Does this indicate that the fascist Antifa tactics are failing here in the U.S.? Possibly. Time will tell. Given the importance of free speech in the U.S., I suspect that either Antifa will fall apart here and now, or someone will get killed during a black bloc, at which point new laws against masked protest will be enacted, and Antifa will lose its only protection. Now, it needs to be clear, Antifa are not protesters. They don't notify the city of their proposed activities. They wear masks to hide their identity. They don't have political demands for themselves. Rather, their demands are anti-constitutional, anti-human rights demands. Their demands are equivalent to protesting a woman's right to trial by jury. It doesn't make any sense. Let's protest to take people's constitutional rights away. Yeah, we're against fascism. We fight fascism by suppressing opposition voices. Really, Antifa are using threat of force or violence to demand political acquiescence to their views. Antifa are terrorists. By now I'm sure it's clear that free speech is most dangerous to people in power that are evil or that are just plain wrong, like Antifa, like Kim Jong-il, like Hitler, etc. But how does that affect you if you're not living in North Korea, if you're not attending political rallies? Well, do you watch YouTube? You see, YouTube's customer is not you, and it's not me either. It's Coca-Cola, it's Ford, it's General Electric, whatever. YouTube's customer is the advertiser who pays to have their ads run on videos like mine, or videos of kittens doing cute things. And you know that those businesses don't want their brand associated with bad things. So recently, mainstream media journalists have started exploiting these companies' fear of bad press by saying that their ads are showing up in front of extremist content. What do they mean by extremist? Well, as a fringe example, ISIS beheadings. So yeah, got it. But in the same attack and subsequent ad boycott of YouTube, many YouTubers had their videos demonetized, meaning those videos would not accrue ad revenue, and this is what many YouTube content creators make their living on, because their videos were cited as containing extreme content. Now, it's true that YouTube is a private corporation and it can do as it pleases, but do you notice the wording? Hate speech. They're like saying, hey, your ads are being shown next to hate speech on YouTube. And I'll come back to what hate speech is in a moment. But for now, think about the fact that mainstream journalists are using the term hate speech and the fear that it incites in order to get major advertisers to pull their money from YouTube, therefore silencing voices of dissent from the mainstream narrative. And yes, I said silence. YouTube's content creators are drawn to YouTube to make their channels their full-time job because YouTube promises to share ad revenue. By scaring the major advertisers away from anyone not in line with mainstream media, the mainstream media is silencing their competition. They're disincentivizing the work it takes to create content that holds any opposing point of view. Free speech on YouTube is under attack, and it started with labeling dissent as hate. Remember that. But YouTube isn't the first. There isn't time in this video to cover all the censorship on Twitter and Facebook and other social media sites due to its extensive nature. So as with everything I talk about, please do your own research. But what is hate speech? Let's get back to that. Are you expecting me to display a definition? Would it matter? Hate speech is whatever the people who use it as a term say it is. It encompasses whatever they need it to encompass at the time. You see, Facebook has a hate speech policy. It's found under its community standards. And Twitter has shadow banning and blocking, and it uses that to curb what its facilitators deem to be hate speech. But again, those are private corporations, and they can do what they want. We don't have hate speech laws here, so it isn't a big deal, right? Each of the following 27 countries, as well as the Council of Europe, have hate speech laws. Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Croatia, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, India, Indonesia, Ireland, Japan, Jordan, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Russia, Serbia, Singapore, South Africa, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. And what I want you to think about is the fact that many of these countries have experienced dramatic problems with things like terrorism, rape, rioting, destruction of property, battery, theft, all recent. But you wouldn't be able to see any common thread connecting those things by watching their local news. Why is that? Because if that common thread were, let's say, refugees, then saying so will be hate speech. It's a problem that can't be discussed and therefore cannot be solved. Because to discuss it would violate hate speech laws. You ever been in a relationship with someone who has a drug problem or a gambling problem and refused to discuss it? How long did that last? Was it absolutely fantastic while it lasted? Of course not. If there's a problem you can't discuss it, it'll build and build and build and build and build until it boils over. Thankfully, here in the United States, we don't have that nonsense. We don't have these fake, make-believe, ridiculous concepts like hate speech in our law. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Abridge means to abbreviate or to cut short. Essentially, no law can be written which prevents the whole story, which prevents the whole truth from being told. The constitutional protection of speech exists in order to ensure that society can solve problems. The First Amendment prevents the sort of problems that Europe is having by ensuring those issues can be discussed openly and resolved. This is why I laugh when people say other countries have freedom. It's ridiculous. They may have some freedom, but we have real freedom. It's what makes us the best. You see, if I think the government is doing something wrong, I'm free to say so, to write about it, to disseminate literature on it, to make videos about it. If I think that the suicide rate in the transgender population is as high as it is because gender identity disorder is a mental disorder which requires medical care, this is an opinion. I can say so. And if you disagree, you can say so. We can discuss it. If I think that most refugees coming out of the Middle East are fighting age males, and that this indicates to me a more subversive problem, I can say so. And if you disagree, in part or in whole, you can say so. We can discuss it. Others can join that conversation. If I think that Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, I can say so. If I were to believe that not systematic racism or police brutality, but rather the absence, in large part, of a father in the homes of much of the black community. That is the cause of the disparity in success between the black community and other communities in the U.S.? I can say that. And if you disagree, you can say that. We're both free to express these ideas, and we should do so, not for the sake of expressing them, but for the sake of fixing them, for the sake of resolving these issues and making sure our nation stays the best. However, just because we're the best doesn't mean we'll be safe forever. College campuses have been setting up free speech zones for years, teaching generations of students that speech should only be free if it's confined to a place where it cannot affect anyone. That's like saying, go ahead, write whatever article you want, at home, on your computer, in a Word doc that you save and don't share in any way. It's totally freedom, right? But even on American college campuses, our right to speech and petition has, at least recently, had its intended effect. Things are changing. There's a light at the end of this tunnel. And this recent Colorado bill is proof of principle. Colorado just banned those supposedly free speech zones on public universities. Up until recently, on Colorado University, the public university in Colorado, and still today on many universities nationwide, if you want to speak about politics or religion or science or kittens, you'd have to do so from a roped-off area designated for free speech. Colorado Senate Bill 17062 ended that segregation of space into free and not free expression zones. A dozen of other states have similar bills in the pipe as we speak. Much of this is due to the diligent work of an organization called FIRE, which stands for the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. FIRE and Colorado State are working to ensure our nation remains the greatest nation on earth. Antifa and other social justice warriors are working to destroy it. For now, the tide seems to be turning back toward freedom, and it all starts on college campuses. I'll leave you with this stern warning from a Supreme Court case in 1957 called Sweezy v. New Hampshire. The court held, among other things, that teachers and students must always remain free to inquire, to study, and to evaluate, to gain new maturity and understanding. Otherwise, civilization will stagnate and die. Designating speech you don't like, or that you're too immature to handle, as hate speech, abridges the freedom to inquire, to study, and to evaluate, to gain new maturity and understanding. So if you've ever said that something someone else said was hate speech, and that they shouldn't be allowed to say it, you must be too stupid to realize that if the shoe is on the other foot, your speech might be illegal. You don't have to agree with what I say. You don't have to agree with the ideas that I have. But you must respect my right to say it, because you should understand that I'll die to defend your right to say the stupid things you say. With that, if you like this video, please click like, and don't forget to share it. Remember, if you don't share, the terrorists win. If you want to see more of this content, go ahead and click that subscribe button. It's been fun for now, be safe, and I hope to see you again soon.